Newsnight tonight, four major stories we're following. Hollywood's glaring hypocrisy on guns, sexual assault, and much more on full display at the Oscars. Now, it's why this year's award show, guess what? It was the least watched ever. Now, tonight, we're going to be calling out these Hollywood leftist hypocrites, and also brand new, a major development. All roads in the so-called Russia investigation lead directly back to Hillary Clinton, and we've got the map. John Solomon reporting that the Australian diplomat who helped start the Russia investigation has deep ties to the Clinton, and according to Solomon, this diplomat actually helped secure $25 million in funding for the Clinton Foundation. And breaking right now, Axios reporting the special counsel, Robert Mueller, is subpoenaing communications involving key Trump associates. Now, tonight we have our own list of corrupt officials and individuals. You're going to want to take notes. And Robert Mueller, you should be focusing in on this list. We'll explain. And also tonight, a breaking news report from the New Yorker casting doubt on if Russia was actually behind the DNC server hack. And this comes as Mueller reportedly is planning to indict Russians for stealing Democratic emails. All of that, plus the House Intel Committee Chairman, Devin Nunes, he's getting answers from some Obama officials about the Clinton bought and paid for dossier. A lot of breaking news in our opening monologue. All right, before we get to the latest on Deep State Gate, we have a lot to tell you about the pinnacle of Hollywood self-praise. Yes, the 90th Academy Awards took place last night, but if you're like most Americans, you probably didn't see it. In fact, this year's award show was the least watched Oscars in recorded history. And tonight, we're going to spare you all the painful details from the 4-hour holier-than-thou parade of Hollywood elitism and who wore what designer and where did their jewelry come from and how high their high heels are and who did their makeup. We'll spare you all that important information. Instead, we're going to focus on some of the most egregious examples of hypocrisy from last night's show. Let's start with the sanctimonious so-called comedian, host Jimmy Kimmel, now Democratic activist, dedicating much of his opening speech to women's rights. Take a look.
I hope you will listen to many brave and outspoken supporters of movements like Me Too and Time's Up and Never Again, because what they're doing is important. Things are changing for the better. They're making sure of that. It is positive change. This is a night for positivity.
All right, of course, Kimmel, he was not the only person to extol the virtues of Hollywood's newfound feminist movement. Now, Best Actress winner Frances McDormand, she used her acceptance speech to honor women across the industry with a special shout out to crowd favorite Meryl Streep. Take a look at this.
If I may be so honored to have all the female nominees in every category stand with me in this room tonight. The actors. Meryl, if you do it, everybody else will. Come on.
That's right, Hollywood. Follow Meryl Streep's lead and stand up for women. Now, just like she did with Harvey Weinstein, for years, Streep even called Weinstein a god. All while Weinstein's horrific misdeeds were well known all over town. Watch this.
I just want to thank my agent, Kevin Uvain, and God, Harvey Weinstein. The Punisher, Old Testament, I guess.
Apparently, most people knew what God was really like. Now, Meryl's brave feminist leadership doesn't end there. During the 2003 Oscars, watch Meryl Streep. She stood up enthusiastically cheering for a known pedophile child rapist by the name of Roman Polanski. You know, the guy that fled to Europe after pleading guilty to giving champagne and Quaaludes to a 13-year-old girl and then raping her repeatedly. Oh, he was 43 at the time. What's this?
Roman Polanski. For the pianist.
A standing ovation for a pedophile child rapist, one of the loudest applauses in Oscars history. Now, Polanski was awarded for an Oscar for Best Director, but Hollywood support for Polanski didn't stop at that award. And that stirring round of applause that you just heard there. In 2009, after Polanski was arrested in Switzerland in connection to his rape case, well, over 100 of these celebrities signed a petition demanding his release. So don't be fooled by all the empowering rhetoric that you saw at the Oscars. Now, Hollywood's hypocritical feminist movement is about as laughable and as flawed as Emma Watson's grammatically incorrect Time's Up tattoo. And predictably, by the way, the next blatant double standard from last night's show involves the topic of gun control and, of course, cheap shots at the NRA. Let's take a look.
On Oscar night, this is the dream we tell. A land where dreamers live and freedom dwells. Immigrants get the benefits. We put up monuments for the feminists. Tell the NRA they in God's way. And to the people of Parkland, we say Ashe.
All right, let's not forget that while the entertainment industry, all these overpaid actors and actresses are pushing increased government restrictions on your right to bear arms, well, they're also protected by heavily armed personnel. In a lot of cases, 24/7. Now, this includes last night's Academy Awards, which was safeguarded by over 500 LAPD officers, the LAPD bomb squad, and other federal officials. So while Hollywood rejects an increase of armed security presence at our schools, well, they're the ones who enjoy the protection of hundreds of professionally trained members of law enforcement that have guns and carry them and had them last night. And while Hollywood makes fun of Americans, the ones that want to protect themselves and arm their families and protect them as well, they're the ones that utilize the services of armed security. Don't our kids in school, don't they deserve about 1/100th of the security that we have at the Oscars? Half these stars probably wouldn't even show up if there was no protection. Now, if Hollywood is wondering why the ratings for their biggest award show is in a free fall, perhaps they might want to do a little soul searching and self-reflection, introspection. Americans don't want to be lectured from hypocrites about women's rights from a group of people who actively supported monsters like Harvey Weinstein and Roman Polanski. And Americans don't want to hear about responsible gun ownership from a group of people who have never been responsible for their own personal security. And Americans sure as hell, they don't want to hear about global warming from a group of people who jet set around the world on their private jets and want us to stop driving SUVs and Dodge Caravans for our kids. Now, maybe at next year's show, the leftists in Hollywood should just leave the politics at the door. All right, also new this hour, this is a massive development. All roads in the Russia investigation are leading directly back to one person, Hillary Clinton. Now, John Solomon, who'll join us tonight, is reporting that the Australian diplomat who helped trigger the start of the Russia investigation has deep connections to Bill and Hillary Clinton. And according to the New York Times, well, Downer is the person, former Trump campaign associate, that George Papadopoulos got drunk with at that London nightclub and then started talking about Russia having dirt on Hillary Clinton. And 2 months later, Downer then told Australian officials about the conversation, who then told American intelligence. Four-way hearsay, as my friend Greg Jarrett says. And Solomon is reporting tonight that Alexander Downer, well, he helped secure $25 million for funding for the Clinton Foundation starting back in 2006. Now, bipartisan lawmakers are telling Solomon tonight that Downer's ties to the Clintons were never previously disclosed to Congress. Shocking. And Solomon's also reporting that Downer met with Bill Clinton in 2006 and with Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State in 2009. Now, we did reach out to Hillary Clinton for comment. Shocking, she never got back to us. But her spokesperson did reply to Solomon and said that Hillary was unaware of possible contacts between her campaign and Downer. In a statement that they gave to The Hill, Australia's foreign ministry declined to answer questions about whether Downer had any contact with Clinton associates around the same time he helped start the Russia investigation. This is a big report tonight. It takes a lot, by the way, if you start connecting the dots, and you can begin to see Clinton has her hands in everything here. All the evidence that was used to start and further the Russia investigation all came from cronies and associates, whether people that were being paid by the Clintons or knew the Clintons. And on top of Alexander Downer, we have Clinton paying over $10 million to fund this dossier that we now know is full of Russian and Russian government lies. The FBI then takes the unverified dossier going against their own protocols. They lie to a FISA judge about who paid for it. They hide that important fact to get the warrant to spy on Trump campaign associate Carter Page, who's sitting right next to me now. And there's also a former State Department official, Jonathan Weiner, who admitted in a Washington Post op-ed to meeting with Christopher Steele Steele and said he was being fed even more anti-Trump information by longtime Clinton allies like Sid Vicious Blumenthal and Cody Shearer. And as we learn more and more information about this massive developing scandal, one thing is clear. Hillary Clinton's at the center of everything. And also breaking now, 2 stories about special counsel Mueller's investigative creep. Axios is now reporting that the special counsel, Robert Mueller, he's now beginning to subpoena all communications as it relates to an unidentified witness and what meetings they might have had or contacts with key Trump associates going back all the way to November 2015. Now, these communications include emails, text messages, and even handwritten notes. And there are several other reports that Mueller is also now investigating the UAE, trying to influence the Trump White House. So Robert Mueller needs to explain what the heck any of this has to do with Trump-Russia collusion. Trump-UAE collusion, is that the next step? This is beyond Mueller's mandate because the entire investigation was supposed to be about Trump-Russia collusion. But since that evidence doesn't exist, well, Mueller's now conducting his witch hunt, and he's shaking people down, hoping that he'll be able to charge them with something, anything, even if it has nothing to do with Russia. And since Mueller is so interested in these subpoenas and getting information out of people, well, we decided to put together a few questions we'd like answered on behalf of the American people, you. Now, let's start with Mueller himself. He should turn over all emails, text messages, handwritten notes from when he was the FBI director about why he didn't listen to an FBI informant, the guy that discovered Vladimir Putin had a group of people in this country, an organization, all trying to get a foothold in America's uranium market. And if Mueller wants to conduct a real investigation, I think he should subpoena all communications from the key players involved in a scandal, by the way, where we have real collusion. Now, take a look at the side of your screen. All of those people there are people that Mueller needs to be issuing subpoenas to. You have officials from the FBI like Comey and Andrew McCabe, former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. You got the lovebirds, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. You got former Obama intelligence officials, key Clinton allies, and even members of Mueller's own team like Andrew Weissman and Jeannie Ray. Now, all these people either have ties to the real Russia scandal or are unimaginably corrupt. So it's time that we start getting some answers. Now, in addition to all this new information, well, we now know another massive bombshell that's breaking tonight, hidden in an article from The New Yorker about former British spy Christopher Steele. It's a major revelation. Well, in the dossier, Steele's Russian sources told him that the hack of the DNC, the emails, the servers, quote, involved agents within the Democratic Party structure itself. Oh, not Russia, as well as Russian cyber operators based in the U.S. and state-sponsored Russian cyber actors. This information is key because, according to new reports, the special counsel, Mueller, is likely going to indict Russians for hacking Democratic emails. There are a few key points, though. Mueller can indict all the Russians he wants, but they're never going to be extradited to face any charges here. So what is Mueller really doing? It's nothing short of a cheap political statement on his part to advance his narrative. Of course, he has all the people that donated to Clinton, Obama, and the DNC on his team. Now, there's one way he'll never get to take any of these Russians or talk to them. Now, if these reports are true, and if Mueller wants to go down the road of hacking, and if he actually cares about truth, then maybe Mueller should talk to the one person on earth that would know. And that would be WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Now, Assange is the one person in the world that would know where the emails came from before he put it up on WikiLeaks. Now, unlike Mueller, I actually took the time. I went to the Ecuadorian embassy in London. I talked to Julian Assange. He's the one that posted the emails. And Assange flat out denied that the emails ever came from Russia or any state. Here's what Assange told me. Did Russia give you this information or anybody associated with Russia?
Our source is not a state party. So the answer for our interactions is no.
You did not get this information about the DNC, John Podesta's emails. Can you tell the American people 1,000% you did not get it from Russia or anybody associated with Russia?
We can say, we have said repeatedly over the last 2 months that our source is not the Russian government and it is not a state party.
I've interviewed Assange 5 times. He has repeatedly and consistently said it was not from Russia nor any state. Now, if Mueller's intention is to get to the truth, then wouldn't he have to at least ask, sit down, try and ascertain from Assange, where did he get this information from? And I don't care if you like Assange or don't like Assange. I don't care if you like WikiLeaks or don't like WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks has never been proven wrong in 11 years. He has a much better track record, by the way, in anyone in the destroy Trump media, like the Washington Post and the New York Times and ABC, NBC, CBS, fake news CNN, or the conspiracy network MSNBC. And since Assange published the emails, wouldn't he know exactly where they came from? And wouldn't he probably have some type of forensic proof about where it came from? Here's another part to this DNC hacking story. The FBI never was actually able to look at the DNC servers. This is an important point. They had to rely on a private company called CrowdStrike that was hired by the DNC because the DNC would never let the FBI look at the servers. Take a look at what the former FBI director, James Comey, told Congress back in January of last year.
Were you given access to do the forensics on those servers?
We were not. We were a highly respected private company, eventually got access and shared with us what they saw there.
But is that typically the way the FBI would prefer to do the forensics, or would your forensics unit rather feel the servers and do the forensics themselves?
We'd always prefer to have access hands-on ourselves, if that's possible.
Do you know why you were denied access to those servers?
I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure.
Was there one request or multiple requests?
Multiple requests at different levels.
And the DNC gets to say no to the FBI? And the FBI never actually analyzed the servers? And they just had to rely on whatever the DNC, whoever they hired, in this case CrowdStrike, to tell them what's in there? Sorry, this sounds a lot like the FBI never verifying the dossier. They just go along with whatever Christopher Steele told them. Now, don't you think if you're going to carry out a thorough investigation, you'd at least want to look at the server? Well, if Hillary had it, it would have been acid washed. And finally tonight, breaking news from the House Intel Committee Chair Devin Nunes in his effort to get answers from key Obama administration officials about the phony dossier. Here's what Nunes said earlier tonight on with Martha McCallum. Take a look.
Thankfully, we have received, most of the people have responded, getting the information back to us promptly and on time. There are a few people who have asked for an additional week, which we have went ahead and granted that time. There are a few people, though, that are not responding. They seem to have went dark. However, if they do not respond here shortly, they will be getting subpoenaed to appear before Congress to be treated with a deposition.
All right, finding out what all these Obama officials knew about the dossier, when they knew it, is key. Now, we've been following these developments closely, and we will continue. Joining us now with reaction, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, former Trump campaign associate, guy who was spied on for a year based on Hillary's dossier. No dossier, no application to spy on you, and through you, the entire Trump campaign. Great to be in the middle of it, isn't it?
Completely out of control, Sean, yeah.
All right, but Mueller also, you're on the list of people that he's asking for all these emails, texts, et cetera. Do you know who the individual is that they're talking about?
Well, there's...
is it a guy that's been melting down on TV tonight?
That's my understanding. You know, after everything I've been through, this is a small drop in the bucket, so kind of become pretty numb to it a long time ago. So,
Greg, what's your take on the list? And what's fascinating about all of this to me is I have my list of people that need to answer questions.
One of the first things you would do as a special counsel would be to begin subpoenaing all of the documents of texts and emails and other communications. And here we are 10 months later, and, you know, Bob Mueller is just kind of getting around to doing that right about now.
Yeah, a little late, right?
Yeah. And, you know, as for this guy, Sam Nunberg, who is a peripheral figure in 2015 before he got fired from the Trump campaign, has been hauling off all day long in an incredibly erratic sort of meltdown way and making all kinds of baseless accusations that he had no access to. For example, he said of Carter Page, he said Carter Page colluded with the Russians. Carter's never even met Sam Nunberg or talked to him.
Well, let's show a little bit of Nunberg. He was on fake news CNN earlier tonight. I think my name came up at some point. Always good to be talked about. You know, free airtime, free promotion. They're obsessed with us. Anyway, let's watch.
So, Sam, I have to ask you one other thing.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's an awkward question to ask, but, you know, I've interviewed you before. You're sitting very close to me.
Yes.
We talked earlier about what people in the White House were saying about you.
Yeah.
Talking about whether you were drinking or on drugs or whatever they had happened today. Talking to you, I have smelled alcohol on your breath.
Well, I have not had a drink.
You haven't had a drink, so that's not...
No.
So I just, because it is the talk out there, again, I know it's awkward, let me just give you the question. You can categorically answer that. No, you haven't had a drink today?
My answer is no.
Let's go after the guy that appears to be having a national meltdown and then say, oh, I smell booze on your breath. Not me. I didn't have one drink.
There's been a lot of people that have been quite intoxicated for over a year and a half now, so there's nothing new here.
Okay, well, how are you going to respond to Mueller?
You know, I've been cooperative with anyone that wants to talk to me. I think the more the truth gets out there, the better. So,
is there anything you're hearing Nunberg says that resonates in your mind as truth?
I was called by dozens of reporters today, and they were asking me for a reaction. I just said, well, ask them where the facts are. You know, everything should be based on facts, and unfortunately, it's been pretty seldom focused on that thus far.
And now you talk about investigative creep. Now we're looking into the Emirates. Now we're looking into Sam Nunberg and what they know about him. Right. And where's the Trump-Russia collusion? Because even last week on The View, you know, Mr. TV himself, Adam Schiff, said there is nothing. He couldn't name any evidence.
Yeah, he's finally backtracking. He was the driving force on every television show he could get in front of a camera on that said Trump-Russian collusion, we're going to prove it. There's all kinds of compelling evidence, he said. Now he doesn't have a shred of evidence. 3 congressional committees have investigated for a year and a half, not a scintilla of evidence of Trump-Russian collusion. Bob Mueller's been at it for 10 months, no evidence of collusion. You know, it's about time that he wrap this hoax up.
How many people are you going to sue?
You know, my main focus right now is on the defamation front, and so that's moving along. But it's similar to the FISA court, right, where they're completely overloaded and they're not able to.
Is the list going to be long?
Well, I think I have a
lot of media people,
very heavy hitters that I'm up against, and I also want $1 from the U.S. government if they own up to the mistakes that they made.
Well, they finally apologized to conservative groups. Thank you both. John Solomon, Sarah Carter with their breaking news. 2 stories next, straight ahead. All right, as we continue, major breaking news tonight from the Hill's John Solomon reporting tonight, quote, Australian diplomat whose tip prompted FBI's Russia probe has ties to the Clintons. For that and more, we have from the Hill, John Solomon, and investigative reporter, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter. John, let's start with this. So you have the foreign minister, Downer, Australian foreign minister, and why don't I just let you set it up? And again, the FBI is implicated here for not doing their job.
Yeah, so you have the guy who gave us the start of the Russia investigation by the FBI's own account, Ambassador Downer's information that he had overheard a conversation about George Papadopoulos in the London bar that he reported 2 months later. That became the genesis of this whole investigation. One of the things we didn't know for the last 2 years that we've been following this, he was a $25 million donor to the Clinton Foundation. He arranged foreign aid in the amount of $25 million from Australian taxpayers to do a noble project, a project to help AIDS patients around Asia. But it's yet another connection of a friendly Clinton source who's at the front end of this investigation, and we're learning about it so late in the process. It frustrates Congress. We talked to Jim Jordan today, and the first thing he said is, why do we keep finding out this stuff after the fact? Why can't the FBI tell this stuff up front? And I think it's a question that a lot of people in Congress are going to be asking.
Well, his prior connection to the Clinton Foundation was never disclosed. So, again, everything always goes back to the Clintons and who they know, and, you know, that Sidney Blumenthal, that everybody that is providing all this, feeding this information, including Hillary paying for the dossier,
Yeah.
They're all Clinton cronies.
By the public information we have, there's only 4 sources of information that the FBI used to predicate or start its investigation. Ambassador Downer, we now know he has a friendly relationship with the Clintons. Christopher Steele, we know he was paid by the Clintons. Christopher Steele talks to Mike Isikoff, the reporter, and Isikoff's story is then used. And the last one is Sidney Blumenthal and his friend Cody Scherer routing information to the State Department to get to Steele, to get to the FBI. All 4 pillars of the initial investigation of the Russia collusion, alleged Russia collusion that hasn't been proven, all start with someone close to the Clintons. And I think that's the picture that now concerns Congress.
All right, Sarah, you have an interesting piece out, the case for or against a special prosecutor to investigate the investigators. Now, we do know that the Inspector General, Horowitz, we expect a report that he's been working on a pretty long time to be coming out, perhaps maybe even this week, next week, or at least very shortly. But the Inspector General has no prosecutorial powers. We know certain facts here. We know that in the FISA warrant, there was never, they knew that, in fact, Hillary had bought and paid for it. They didn't tell in the original application, the judge, that in fact that was the case. It was a special footnote, may have political orientation. That tells nothing to the judge. So they purposely withheld that information, and every subsequent renewal of that application 3 times, again, they don't tell the judge, and everybody knew that the basis for it was the dossier, or to quote the former Deputy FBI Director McCabe, no dossier, no FISA warrant application even.
Correct. And look, the Inspector General, the Department of Justice has been advocating that the Inspector General, and they've put him in charge, Michael Horowitz, of this investigation into FISA abuse. But everyone, there is a growing chorus now within the Republican Republican lawmakers that are saying we really need to step outside of the DOJ and the FBI and call a special counsel to investigate this. Why? Because one, the Inspector General just doesn't have the resources to conduct such a massive investigation. This is what it's going to need. And you can't have the fox guarding the hen house. You basically can't have the DOJ investigating itself. And this is the 2 main arguments. Now, the DOJ would say, no, look, this is his purview. He needs to be able to do his job, and his job is to investigate the FBI, investigate those people within the DOJ that they believe broke the law. But you brought up a good point, Sean. I mean, he can refer for prosecution, but he can't prosecute himself, right? He is not a prosecutor. He can put the report together and then refer to prosecution. And I think
the problem is we already know the laws. We know that they purposefully, they didn't verify the facts, and they misled FISA judges. That's a fact.
Right.
That's a violation of law.
Well, and that's why people are calling for a special prosecutor, because they want to see this investigated. And I can tell you a number of senators I've spoken with, a number of congressional lawmakers actually believe that the law has been broken. And in fact, one of them told me tonight, a senator told me tonight, you know, if I'm wrong, let's have a special prosecutor make that decision. Somebody outside of the scope.
Well, I have a few names. How about Bruce and Nellie Orr? How about Struck and Page? How about Susan Rice? How about
Sally Yates?
Jim Comey, Sally Yates, Sid Vicious Blumenthal, Bill and Hillary, Obama, Samantha Powers,
Cody
Ben Rhodes,
Scheer.
McCabe, Lynch. I got a pretty long list, John.
Well, you know, there's a column in The Hill tonight by Jonathan Turley. I encourage everyone to read it. It says, you know, we just prosecuted Mike Flynn for false statements. What if this report about the IG report is true and McCabe lied about a leak? Are we going to prosecute him and treat him the same way as we treated Michael Flynn?
Is there equal justice under the law, John?
That's a great question, and that's the big question here. And can the Justice Department effectively do it when he was such a big part of the apparatus that started the case?
If I deleted subpoenaed emails, I wonder if I'd go to jail. If I acid washed my hard drive and beat up my BlackBerry and iPhone, I wonder what would happen, Sarah.
You would probably be prosecuted and you would go to jail. I mean, that's a fact. This is the reason why these investigations are so important. They're not just a Washington-centric investigation. This is about the American people. This is about our Fourth Amendment rights. When we think of FISA abuse, when we think of Carter Page, it's not just Carter Page. It's every single one of us, and about the tools of our intelligence community being weaponized against us. And that's why this is so important.
That's my prediction. Carter Page is going to be a rich man at the end of all this.
Maybe.
All right, good investigative work, both of you. We keep on peeling the onion. We're getting there. When we come back, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Geraldo Rivera on the outrageous illegal immigration situation and that mayor out in Oakland, California, literally risking lives. We'll explain as Hannity continues. Our good friend Geraldo Rivera, he was at the White House today with Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner. See that? That's a selfie, by the way, a safe selfie. He's going to tell us all about it in a minute. All right, but first we're learning more damning information about the illegal immigrants that the mayor of Oakland, California is trying to protect from following the law and federal immigration authorities. According to the LA Times, citing ICE, of the 232 people that were arrested in the latest illegal immigration crackdown in California, 180 were either convicted criminals, had been issued a final order of removal, or who had previously been removed from the United States. And, quote, 115 had prior felony convictions for serious offenses like child sex crimes, weapons charges, assault, or had past convictions for significant or multiple misdemeanors. Here now with more, national security strategist Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Fox News correspondent at large Geraldo Rivera. You know, if you're the law of the land is the law of the land. You want to change the law, change the law. But when you are aiding and abetting, especially the people we're looking for, criminal aliens that have committed crimes in this country, you're putting ICE members at work, Border Patrol people's lives in jeopardy, and the lives of people in the communities in which they live in jeopardy, because most of them are known criminals. There's no excuse for what this woman, this Oakland mayor, is doing by putting people's lives in jeopardy.
You know, I know that I've been out of sync with the majority of our viewers for the 17 years I've been here, and I apologize ahead of time.
Why are you apologizing for being yourself? Don't ever apologize for being you.
But I, as a student of history, recall learning about the Compromise of 1850, where they had something called the Fugitive Slave Act, where people in the free states, officials in the free states, were required by law to help in the recapture of escaped slaves to return them to their slave owners in the South. The people of Oakland and San Francisco and Los Angeles see this move against these undocumented immigrants in that light.
They're going after known criminals,
they
Geraldo.
Aren't, Sean.
Yeah, no, Geraldo, look at the numbers. We just put them up on the screen.
But,
come on.
But you gave the sample of the 232, and I grant you that there were real criminals amongst them.
But that's who's being targeted right now.
The point of the mayor, remember, this is not me, this is not Geraldo, this is the mayor of Oakland saying that that is a community where the crime has dropped 3 straight years of law-abiding immigrants who deserve to live free without the fear of deportation.
Dr. Gorka, we're not talking about the otherwise law-abiding. Still, people didn't respect our law of sovereignty as it relates to immigration. That's not who we are talking about, though, here.
Sure, and we're not talking about slaves being recaptured. The analogy is specious and fallacious. These are criminals. If you came here illegally, you're not undocumented, you're a criminal. And secondly, more than 100 people who are actually convicted felons, not suspected of crimes, convicted of violent felonies in America. Why are we creating sanctuary cities for criminals? It's insane. Are we a nation of rule of law or not?
Dr. Gorka, isn't that decision, whether or not to create a sanctuary city, isn't that for that city to decide or that state to decide?
When the founding fathers created the federal system, they said the president, is in charge of immigration.
Your whole philosophy, states' rights?
No. Immigration has nothing to do with the states. The national border isn't around California.
That's why the states are saying we are not going to assist you. We are not going to assist you in this immoral effort. And on the west and the east. Immigration is in the control of the executive. The founding fathers said so, and nothing has changed. Mayors don't control immigration. They don't. Mayor Schaap points to the case of a mom who has been in the country 26 years, who has 4 citizen children, totally law-abiding, working as a nurse, who was captured and deported from her 4 children.
My parents were refugees.
My point is, when you go out there, when ICE goes out,
immigrants.
they pick the low-hanging fruit. They pick Juan and Maria. They pick the dishwasher and the lawnmower and the babysitter.
There's a reason.
They don't catch the MS-13.
Geraldo, there's a reason that the statue of justice in every courtroom in America is blindfolded. It doesn't look at who you are, whether your name's Juanita or whether it's Sebastian. If you broke a law, you're a criminal. If your name is Clinton, you don't get a pass.
But you can't
Justice must be blind.
You are intentionally confusing people
it's a crime.
By calling these immigrants criminals when the only crime they have committed is their unlawful presence in this country. They haven't
breaking the law
or murdered or, they're not the thieves that threaten society.
200 of them have.
100 of the 230, but the hundreds of others who maybe escape. This mayor is not in any legal jeopardy because she says.
I can tell you right now. I have spoken to the highest level.
Unofficial source.
Excuse me.
I've spoken to the highest level of the White House, and they are looking into legal action against the mayor.
She's aiding and abetting law-breaking.
Yes.
She's an accomplice to law-breaking,
She heard the scuttlebutt, Sean, that the raid was coming down, and she announced it at a press conference.
She's tipping off those people.
It offends people. I get that it offends people, but it's not illegal.
It is.
It is. Of course it's illegal.
It's obstruction of justice.
She used official information and tipped them off.
Okay.
That's different.
Now you sound like Bill Clinton. It all depends what it is.
Right.
Seriously? Come on.
Well, I
got the information from here, so I didn't.
This was an enormously popular move by this mayor in her community. It may be offensive to
crazy California,
but it is the sixth largest economy in the country in the world.
I've got news for you. It doesn't matter where you get the information from. If you're obstructing justice, it's a crime.
By one of these criminal aliens that would have otherwise been deported. Would somebody have blood on their hands? That they absolutely assisted in staying and breaking the law?
If-then.
No, not if-then. Because you know what? People that commit violent crimes do it again and again. It's called recidivism.
It happens in a handful of cases. There are 11 million undocumented immigrants in the country.
Tell me about today. You went to meet with Ivanka. Why would Ivanka and Jared meet with you? What were they doing? What were they thinking? 2
weeks ago I was at Mar-a-Lago at the invitation of the president. I was with every other member of the family with whom I was very close. During their celebrity, Ivanka and I did Celebrity Apprentice together. So she reached out and said, "Come on down and have some tea." So it was
had some tea.
Had some tea. Well, I actually had coffee. She had water.
Okay.
But it was interesting. Prime Minister Netanyahu was downstairs with the president of the United States. I didn't. I was upstairs with Ivanka. We were talking about.
You know what? I got to give you an A+.
Of the times.
This is such a better selfie than what I'm used to. It's so much better.
They're the nicest people.
I'm only kidding. Yeah.
Jared was on his way out. He stopped by to say hi.
And you were talking about all the people in D.C. that are horrible, not the administration.
Absolutely, and she is so noble, and she is so efficient and so effective, and she wants the best for the country. She wants the best for her dad, and I am 100% behind her. I think that. Let
me tell you something.
She and Jared are
politics.
Nice. The kids are settled. They have a nice home.
It is a brutal, dirty, outrageous business.
I just wish
it's hard.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gorka. Tomi Lahren is fired up about all those Hollywood hypocrites at the Oscars lecturing you last night. Straight ahead. So after a tumultuous year that saw literally dozens of major sex abuse scandals erupt in Hollywood, last night's Academy Awards featured more than a few cringeworthy moments, like this joke from host Jimmy Kimmel about Oscar's manhood. Wow.
Oscar is the most beloved and respected man in Hollywood, and there's a very good reason why. Just look at him. Keeps his hands where you can see them. Never says a rude word. And most importantly, no penis at all. He is literally a statue of limitations. And that's the kind of men we need more of in this town. Here's how clueless Hollywood is about women. We made a movie called What Women Want, and it starred Mel Gibson. Kind of all you need to know.
Yeah, the perfect man, a gold statue. And by the way, the casting couch culture of Weinstein and Spacey and Polanski, and we can go on and on. Here with reaction to last night's show, Fox News contributor, she lives out there, I have no idea why, Tomi Lahren. You know, I'm watching all this for the little bit until Homeland came on at 9 Eastern on Sunday nights, which I never miss. And I'm sitting there thinking, nobody can tolerate this. I knew from the opening 4 minutes it would be a disaster ratings-wise, the lowest ever.
Well, it's really perfect what they did last night because, as you know, Sean, an actor is paid a ridiculous amount of money to pretend to be something that they are not. And all of these individuals in this room, they do that day in and day out. They pretend to be social justice warriors and humanitarians, but really they're just overpaid hypocrites. And they're not funny. I think that's the biggest crime here, is that they're not funny. They try so hard to be funny, and they're still not funny.
Okay. Now, how does the crowd that just a number of years ago literally gives the loudest applause to a guy that drugged a 13-year-old girl and repeatedly raped her? How did that guy get the biggest applause ever? And how are we supposed to believe one word they're saying when they applauded that guy? Because I have no faith in any of them. I think they're all phonies.
There is nothing more phony than the Me Too and Time's Up movement when it comes to Hollywood. It should be hashtag we all knew. It should be hashtag we all knew and said nothing until it was trendy to speak up. I think that that's what I have a biggest problem with, is that even those that are interviewing people on the red carpet, those that are in that room, those that are friends with people that, like you said, like Weinstein, they all knew, or they had a pretty good idea, and they said nothing. They allowed it to continue, but now they dress in a certain color, they wear a pin, they make jokes about it, and somehow they think that they're doing the country good. They think that they're doing women good. They think that they're starting some kind of a movement. Yeah. All hypocrites.
Oh, did you notice when you pull up in the red carpet in your beautiful Escalade with your armed guards, what did you see? Armed cops, armed SWAT team, arms if we're gonna secure the perimeter of the Oscars, can't we do that in America's school, Tommy?
Well, I think that what's so great about the Second Amendment is it protects those of us that can't afford the luxury of armed security details surrounding us. I thought maybe that they would do something about their gun control message. Maybe they wouldn't have armed security guards. Maybe that would give them a little bit of legitimacy. But of course, it's Hollywood.
Yeah, that's Hollywood. That's where you live. You choose to live there. I don't know why. All right, when we come back, a major announcement and more straight ahead. All right, so in a speech on Saturday, President Trump joked about China's leader moving to end term limits, saying, quote, maybe we'll have to give that a shot someday. Well, the destroy Trump, hate Trump media, they weren't so entertained. That's our video of the day.
When Republicans ignore the fact that this man is talking about being president for life, if they think that Donald Trump is joking, then they're fools. And I don't think they're fools.
The people in the room clapping and laughing. At this point, who would clap and laugh at that? I mean, I would be stone-faced.
You have to hope that it was nervous laughter.
But the message that Donald Trump is sending out is, yep, if you can seize power by being an autocrat, fantastic.
Poor Joe and Mika. All right, time for the Hannity hotline. Hit me with your best shot.
So much fake news. That's really how it seems. Lies, cover-ups, and deception with all the chaos and schemes. Politicians and trusted officials lying to the Americans, too. Fraud and corruption at every level. Who will report what's true? Thanks, you Fox News and a man named Sean Hannity. You have worked fearlessly to stop this crazy insanity.
That is amazing. If I had your address, I would send you a Hannity football. Maybe we can call back. Have anything to say? Good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter. 877-225-8587. Before we go, remember the faith-based film I produced last year? Became a big hit, Let There Be Light. It is now available on demand, on DVD, and you can get it at Walmart, Amazon.com, and everywhere. It's on Hannity.com. All right, we'll always be fair and balanced, never the destroy Trump media. Thank you for being with us. Let not your